leaving. But to do what you're suggesting that people need to do to overthrow this EU dictatorship, if you like, you need to have a huge number of people believing what you're saying. How do you achieve that critical mass?
That's why I started the newspapers.
But you don't do it anymore. You have the website.
Well, I need 15,000 a month to do the newspapers. That was the trouble. And it was all right when I was producing 5,000, but by the time the circulation got up to 100,000, I couldn't finance it anymore. Well,
why didn't you sell them? Why didn't you become the Daily Express or... You know, I mean, but the newspapers are a bit old century, aren't they? With all due respect to the national media, but, you know, everyone's on the internet now, aren't they? So how, you know, you've got a great website, or a well put together website with lots of facts and data on it, but how do you get people to go to your website?
Well, I was hitting, you know, 100,000 newspapers read by 5 people each. That's 500,000 a month. 6,000 a month comes to the website. I've never been a great believer in the internet as a marketing tool. It works sometimes brilliantly. It doesn't in other cases, and it's not working in this case on a big enough scale. Well, newspapers were.
Okay. So, all right, what else? You've mentioned a few things that people can do.
Well, another thing that is really valuable is to contact your local newspaper, arrange a meeting with journalists, take them out to lunch or go around to their office, meet them in a pub, and explain this to them.
Well, that's not going to happen, you know, is it? Journalists, random people ringing journalists and saying, let's go for a drink. Trust me, that's not going to happen. You can talk to them on the phone.
Yeah, okay.
And say, I want to talk to you about this. Are you aware of what's really happening? Have you been to, for instance, eutruth.org.uk? Do you know what's really happening kind of conversation? But even then, just supposing you got the journalists to buy into that story, they're going to, and just supposing they write the story and they give it to their editor, you've already said that the media is controlled.
Absolutely correct.
So the editor is going to spike it, isn't he or she?
Yes, exactly. And what's going to happen then? You're going to create tension inside the nursepaper, and the journalist is going to realise that you're speaking the truth.
Well, no, because the editor won't say, I've been told by my controllers in common purpose, the Freemasons...
No, but when his story gets spiked for no apparent reason, and he's just spent a few hours researching it and writing it, he's going to be
stories are spiked all the time because there's no space or because an advertiser has bought the space or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
But just think, if you were UKIP and you had 30,000 members, the reason the membership kept dropping off is because they were never given anything to do. They were never given a campaign to fight, and they realised the leadership wasn't doing anything. But if you've got 10, 30,000 members, and they're contacting journalists continually, eventually, after about the 10th telephone call, the journalist is going to start being interested. What the hell's going on here?
That might have an impact. I think that possibly would.
Yeah.
But like I say, you've got to get to those people first before the media has a chance to get to them, if you like.
Yep.
So, and that's the question. That's a simple question I'm asking. Is there a method by which you can get this message to enough people, convince enough people, get enough people committed to this change? Because, I mean, it's like, basically, it's... People have to be under very heavy duress before they suddenly decide, OK, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And this... What's happened to the UK has been very gradual, hasn't it, over a long period of time. So people haven't really noticed...
It's been very subtle.
...what's happened.
Exactly.
And they can put it down to other things, can't they? They can say it's caused by different things, you know, too many people coming in the country or just a general, you know, the depression with the banks and all these... They can blame lots of different things. There's nowhere to point the finger, really.
No, that's deliberate. It's brilliant. It's Frankfurt School at its best. It is superb. It is a superb piece of national sabotage, and it is national.
Okay. Yeah. So, actually, I've got to ask you, there was a text a long time ago, so I can't credit whoever it was who wrote it, who said, in Europe then, in this plan, who is number one?
The most senior Bilderberger that we're obviously aware of is Angela Merkel. She seems to give Gordon Brown his orders. Who's the top of the pile? Right at the very top, it's probably a Rothschild or maybe a Rockefeller, but almost certainly a Rothschild, and quite a few steps in between. And it's all a bit surprising to me that the royal family is involved, and they are so senior, but they are very senior in it. And the Queen has been a supporter of the EU throughout her adult life.
But she doesn't turn up at Bilderberger meetings, does she?
No, that would be a bit... I think Prince Philip has, though.
Well, one of the Dutch royal family has.
Yes, and of course the whole thing was started off by a relative of theirs, Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands.
And the first meeting was in the Netherlands, wasn't it, I believe?
At the Bilderberg Hotel, and because he was a former Nazi SS officer.
Well, it all goes around in a big circle, doesn't it? Yes. Brenda in Hull says, Theo, stop knocking him. I don't think I'm knocking you, I'm just trying to extract the facts.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, so you've suggested certain things that people can do, you know, go to their MP, write to the papers.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the simplest campaign of all, just shock 2 people a day with the truth. You know,
print out stuff off your website and just give it to people.
Yes, but tell them, do you know the EU is a dictatorship? And when they say don't talk rubbish, just say read that.
Because I mean, people think, well, we vote for a member of Parliament, a member of the European Parliament, an MEP, and they assume, I suppose, that those MEPs are the equivalents of members of Parliament in our Parliament, in the British Parliament.
Yeah, I mean, pretty well any MEP will tell you the whole thing's a farce and they have no power at all. Our MPs have much more power than they do in Brussels.
But is that because of scale or because of the way it's constituted?
That's the way it's constituted. Basically, the EU is very strictly designed on the Soviet model. You have the